Ladies and gentlemen, reaction. This is Cuban Missile Crisis, Eyeball to Eyeball, Extra History Part 2 by the channel Extra Credits. Yeah, we saw the first part in that, US and the NATO forces put nuclear missiles in Turkey near Soviet Union. So Soviet Union said, why shouldn't we do that to Cuba? Even though they signed a treaty with USA that explicitly said that we are not going to do that. If you do that, USA will retaliate or something like that. So, Russians put missiles there. It's kind of understandable if you put missiles in Turkey, Soviets are going to do something like that. They're not just going to sit there like, oh, okay, I guess we're not going to do nothing. No, they're going to do something like that. But obviously that led to, they immediately find out because USA around the Cold War had really great technologies. Like I said in the previous reaction video, that they had awesome spy technology and things that even today we don't know about most of them. Only some of them are declassified. So obviously they found out immediately, and now they are doing some kind of a blockade to stop all the missiles and warheads coming or something like that. So yeah, around that time. Right, this is just a few decades after the World War II. Few decades before that, there was World War I. Few decades before that, there was some other war. So world has been at war at certain level until this point every few decades. So just after a few decades of World War II, this happening, world must have been like, oh shit, before it was just wars, armies and soldiers and things like that. Sure, now it's nuclear weapons. What's going to happen now? So there was a real pressure moment at the time. So yeah, that's what it's on. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the reaction. There's a link in the description. Check out the cards for different playlists. Check out the end cards. And yeah, let's watch it.
It's October 22nd, 7 p.m. Camera equipment clutters the Oval Office. 3, 2, 1. The president is live, announcing to 100 million Americans that there are nuclear weapons in Cuba.
Within the past week, unmistakable evidence has established the fact that a series of offensive missile sites is now in preparation on that imprisoned island.
Look, I'm not gonna lie, this is surprising that they told people that. Nowadays, I don't think they would do that to make sure there is no panic or something like that. All the agencies and things would keep it a secret. This would become a secret, operation in a way. All the intelligence would have kept secret. All the operation would have kept secret until a resolution is found. They would not make it public like that. But that time was different. Imagine that time. Before that, Soviet Union is the enemy of the people, and that was the whole mentality around the country, United States. And then you hear your president tell you in emergency broadcast, the Soviet Union has missiles in Cuba that could hit entire United States mainland. Imagine the terrified, feeling of the time. I guess around this time that thing began, right? Duck and cover. All the, fear of nuclear missiles coming.
The U.S. military goes to DEFCON 3. Missiles and bombers can launch within 15 minutes of a presidential order. The clock ticks another minute toward midnight. This Cold War series is brought to you by Dominations. If you want to get your Khrushchev on, check out the link in the description. Around the world, troops are going on the alert. In Cuba, Castro sounds the mobilization, calling up 300,000 troops to defend the island. He dispatches...
Well, over this time is especially the Kennedy's brother, JFK's brother, who was, I guess, head of the intelligence agency or something, CIA and everyone, who were trying to kill Castro for a long time. As soon as they got this, I got my chance, let's kill him, let's invade Cuba right now. They were all, they were all telling JFK to invade Cuba now. Let's do the invasion.
Che Guevara to prepare for a guerrilla war. His brother Raul surrounds Guantanamo Bay with artillery. 100 miles away in Florida, 120,000 servicemen gather in an invasion force nearly as large as the one deployed on D-Day. 600 aircraft clog the runways. Troops sleep in football stadiums. A cargo plane crashes on the tarmac at Guantanamo Bay. Its immolated crewmen are the first deaths in a conflict that could kill millions. In Moscow, the Presidium is buckling down for an all-night meeting. First, Khrushchev issues a statement calling this so-called quarantine an illegal act of piracy. He knows that the term's a rhetorical dodge. Kennedy can't call it a blockade because that would be an act of war.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, great politicians always, know how to play on words, right? Always politicians play on words. Yeah, it's not a blockade, it's a quarantine. Yeah, so everything's fine, I guess. Huh? We should all go home. It's just a quarantine, not a blockade.
But illegal or not, Khrushchev orders his missile freighters to turn back toward the Soviet Union. He can't risk them being boarded. The other freighters, the ones delivering food and fuel, will continue on. Let Kennedy and...
Especially around that time, there was, real, I've got better things, showman mentality. Like, Russia has great missiles, great technology. I mean, obviously Americans don't know it because they haven't seen it. I mean, it's just, all the reports of all the testing and things tells them that it's just a kind of a smoke screen. Both countries say, we have this technology, even though, in the first part, they said that Russian missiles were not that accurate at long ranges, but Americans didn't know that. Nobody knew that. They were just flexing. So at that point, if they capture, a Russian ship like that and see all the technologies there and realize that, look at that, these are flawed. I mean, lots of pressure goes down, and that's bad for Soviet Union. Like, Soviet Union does not have as near as good technology as we thought before, because everybody was just hyping up their technology around that time. That we have the best technology. Americans hyping, we have the best technology.
Inspect those. It'll only embarrass him. Their submarine escorts will hold position just outside the quarantine, ready to move in case war breaks out. One freighter, Khrushchev decides, should steam on ahead as planned. Kennedy has delayed the quarantine a day in order to seek international support, and in that time, the freighter full of warheads can still make Cuba. It pulls into a rural port just before dawn. Soviet troops carefully unload its cargo and distribute it to the holding bunkers. Cuba's missiles now have teeth. At 12:05 p.m.,
I understand that. There was, knowing United States today, maybe there was a bit different time at the time, but Kennedy said, let's not do the blockade just now. I want to talk to the international allies right now and gather support. That's not how America would have done it today, right? Today, they're just like, on the edge all the time. Just, they realize that something like this is going on. Immediately, in a matter of seconds, they would create a blockade. Because one missile is too many. That's the mentality. So they are delaying the blockade. Was surprising there.
U.S. Navy jets take off from Florida, tearing over Cuba at 1,000 feet. They are low-level reconnaissance craft, meant to provide detailed pictures of the missile sites. On the ground below, Cuban anti-aircraft crews are unnerved and itching to strike back. Were those recon aircraft or strike fighters?
Yeah.
Were their positions currently being marked for elimination? At 7:06 p.m., Kennedy officially signs the quarantine authorization, but there's a problem. XCOM is still debating how the Navy will enforce it. The Navy thinks it's simple. They will challenge every ship to stop for inspection. If the ship doesn't stop, they'll fire star shells.
That's your average, I guess, blockade. That's how blockades are.
If it still doesn't respond, they'll disable its rudder and board it. If they encounter a submarine, they'll use practice depth charges to force it to surface. Hearing this, Kennedy goes white. Firing on Soviet ships could start a battle. A battle could lead to a...
all those military advisors, right? Everybody, all of them are just know how to attack, how to strategize, all the military related things. Well, he's the one who's politician here. Everybody's talking, let's talk logistics, let's talk tactics. How are we gonna do this? We're gonna attack this, we're gonna attack a submarine so it comes to surface. If somebody doesn't stop, we're gonna attack them. JFK like, are you out of your mind? This will immediately cause war.
A war, and a war might mean nuclear annihilation. He dispatches the Secretary of Defense to keep watch over the Navy's war room. There must be no shooting. The Navy was treating this quarantine as if it was their objective to sink ships, but this operation should be meant to communicate with Khrushchev.
Man, this is something, right? Even JFK like, my word alone isn't something. I need to put somebody there to oversee things so they don't shoot, because I know the military and navies are trigger happy a lot.
This isn't whack-a-mole, it's sign language with destroyers. That night, Robert Kennedy sneaks into the side door of the Soviet embassy. It's a back channel that the Kennedys have used before. Robert asks if the Soviet ships will stop when challenged. The ambassador, uninformed about the missiles and with no orders from Moscow, says that they will not, and furthermore, stopping them will be an act of war. On October 24th at 10 a.m., the first suspected weapons freighter is scheduled to hit the quarantine line in minutes. XCOM anxiously waits for news. Then, a message. The Soviet missile freighters have turned back. We're eyeball to eyeball, says the Secretary of State, and I think the other fellow just blinked. Little do they know, there was no showdown. The freighters had turned back 30 hours ago.
Yeah.
CIA analysts wanted to be certain before passing on the information, and naval signals traffic is so...
The analyst like, what a bunch of queens constantly panicking. Chill out, man. We were observing. We need to make sure before we tell you. Damn, in 24 hours, you just went up and down. Yeah, this is just happened, right? I mean, they are, afraid like Soviet Union is just, if we do anything, they'll just immediately attack. It's war. I mean, obviously, Soviet Union doesn't have that much allies, right? After World War II, Soviet Union is a communist party, while US and all the different allies countries like Britain and France, obviously, is more, lean towards democratic, United States side. They were leaning towards that. I mean, even they don't want communist parties rise. So if a sudden war happens, whose side Britain, France, everybody gonna be on? So Soviets don't want to attack because they know that they are not gonna have that much allies there. But, obviously Americans are thinking, that, last resort type of mentality. Like, what if we do this and they just immediately attack like it's a war or something? So there was a real panic situation.
busy right now, even emergency messages are taking 4 hours to get through. The closest Soviet weapons freighter halted 500 miles away from the interception point. But ships are still coming. In Omaha, Strategic Air Command orders the nuclear force to DEFCON 2. 145 missiles stand at the ready. 23 bombers circle outside Soviet airspace, each with enough firepower to level 4 cities. It's 5:15 in the Kremlin. Khrushchev has privately decided that there cannot, under any circumstances, be a war. But buckling to US pressure could destroy him politically. He needs to walk away from this with a win. He proposes a new strategy: withdraw the missiles in return for Kennedy's promise never to invade Cuba. The Presidium agrees to this. He drafts a letter outlining the deal and dispatches it to the US Embassy. It will take 8 hours to arrive. On October 25th at 5 p.m., the US ambassador to the UN is famously quiet and careful, but Kennedy has made clear what needs to happen. The Soviets are still denying that the missiles exist. He has to go hard and hold their ambassador to account on television. "Do you deny that the USSR has placed missiles in Cuba?" asks the ambassador. "Yes or no?" Don't wait for the translation. Yes or no. "I am not in an American courtroom," argues the Soviet ambassador. The US will have their reply later. "I am prepared to wait for my answer until hell freezes over," the ambassador answers. He raises blown-up photographs of the missile sites and lays out his evidence. On October 26th, at 1 a.m. in Minnesota, a sentry guarding a radar station sees the silhouette of a man trying to climb the fence. He fires into the darkness and raises a sabotage alarm. It's happening. A Soviet commando raid. Pilots across the Midwest scramble into their cockpits. But the alarm is canceled just before the first takeoff. It's a false alarm. A bear had wandered into the wire. At 7:58...
Bear's like, damn, man, I've come around this a lot, many times. This has never happened. Everybody's so anxious, right? Anxiety is high, everybody's under pressure, everybody's trigger happy. Oh shit, is what happening?
a.m., the U.S. Navy boards the first vessel passing the quarantine.
What's the best thing about this is, in the past, this wouldn't have happened at this level. It's either war or not. They would declare war, and some part of an attack happen before there is some kind of peace treaty signed, before war escalates to any bigger areas. But now, because of nuclear weapons, even the start of small war, small battle is enough to, everybody fearing like nukes can be coming. So this was a completely different time. Like, it's like starting any kind of a conflict. It's like just, putting up, pressing the nuclear button. That's what that was. Before it was like, okay, fuck it, it's a battle. So small battle rages here and there before countries come to agreement like, okay, let's stop all that. It wasn't like if you fight anywhere here and there, it's just open out war completely without any, stop button. But now because of nuclear weapons, nobody even wanted to start any kind of conflict. And they were all under pressure. Nukes really changed the whole mentality of warfare.
Line. Now, this is a bit of political theater. Kennedy has purposely chosen a Lebanese freighter with a Greek crew for his first inspection. There is zero chance of it actually carrying nuclear weapons. But it does get the message across. Ships will be stopped. At 12 p.m., the CIA briefs XCOM. Low-level reconnaissance has discovered something new. Soviet cruise missiles, probably nuclear. They're positioned near Guantanamo Bay and the coast. Any U.S. invasion will probably be met with a tactical nuclear strike. U.S. generals ask for clearance to use their own tactical nukes. In Cuba, Castro's losing patience. He's annoyed that Khrushchev ordered the freighters to return, and furious that the Soviet ambassador's still denying the existence of missiles in Cuba. And most of all, he has had it with the reconnaissance flights. He's held fire so far to preserve diplomatic...
He's like, okay, first of all, I didn't want any of this shit missile here, alright? You convinced me. So we openly went out and just did this shit. And now you're, returning ships. Your ambassador is denying everything. Well, pressure is on me. Now US is going to be pissed on me if you back off.
efforts, but his spies in the US are reporting that an attack may come as soon as tonight. These planes are violating Cuban sovereignty, scouting for an invasion, maybe even preparing for a surprise airstrike. He drafts a letter to the UN threatening defensive fire against any violation of Cuban airspace. At 6 p.m., Khrushchev's proposed deal finally arrives at the White House. The letter is long and rambling, which is why it took so long to translate, encrypt, and send. It pleads against a war. Kennedy wants to take this deal, but the press, stonewalled by the White House and seizing on statements by a bureaucrat, is reporting that an invasion of Cuba is imminent. If the Soviets believe them, war may break out.
Washington Post. Whoa, Kennedy orders invasion of Cuba as Reds build nuclear bases there. US to strike major targets. Now what the fuck, man? You can't just do that. This is why, like I said in today, if something like this happen, it never goes public because of shit like this. It's a delicate thing, right? All this intelligence, all the moves that you do, all the political moves you do, it's delicate thing. And Washington Post is, fuck it, let's just put, major headlines. There you go.
An invasion of Cuba is imminent. If the Soviets believe them, war may break out before he can accept. On October 27th at 6 a.m., Castro has been at the Soviet embassy all night, trying to draft a statement. He thinks that the US will invade at any moment, and that will inevitably trigger nuclear war. But he keeps vacillating on what he wants Khrushchev to do about it. Finally, the frustrated ambassador asks, "Are you recommending a first strike? Yes or no?" "Yes," he says. In the event of a US invasion, the USSR must launch. Cuba will be martyred, but the global revolution will survive. Meanwhile, in the White House, Kennedy is ordering the event of a US invasion, the USSR must launch. Cuba will be martyred, but the global revolution...
The leader of Cuba, Fidel Castro, is saying that if United States invade, Soviets must launch nuclear missile, Cuba will be martyred. But it's okay. What? You should see the interest of Cuba. You're saying Cuba will be martyred? This is effed up, man.
Revolution will survive. Meanwhile, in the White House, Kennedy is ordering more recon flights, despite Castro's warning. CIA reports indicate that the missiles are now operational. If one launches, it will hit...
JFK is like, okay, more reconnaissance flight. But Castro said, if we do that, who's Castro? The leader of Cuba. Oh, all right.
New York or Washington in 10 minutes. There is zero room for error. One slip might mean the end of humanity. At 11:16 a.m., Soviet troops pick up a high-altitude plane over Cuba. It's probably a U-2, and it's been photographing their position.
Look, I know there is this, every time people suggest about World War III and, around this Cuban missile crisis too, like if, Soviet Union and USA went to conflict like that and nuclear missiles were launched, the world would end. Yeah. Nukes are so terrifying that to me what I think is if Soviet Union and USA went to war and throw nukes at each other, I don't think no other country would have, intervened like, oh shit, we are not part of this. And they would just walk away because they are fucking nukes. Everybody's afraid of them. Nobody wants that. Everybody wants to flex so nobody seems weak. But when shit like this happens, so if nukes are launching, everybody would just back off. Like, it's up to you, Soviet Union, it's up to you, USA. So I think bombs would have been launched at USA and Soviet Union in Russia, but not everywhere else. So world wouldn't end, but it would have been, a really terrifying scenario for both countries.
In depth for an hour. Their surface-to-air missiles can knock it out, and their general has issued orders to shoot down airspace violators. They call him for confirmation, but he's asleep. So they launch. 72,000 feet above, Major Anderson is listening to his U-2's camera traversing back and forth. Thunk, 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 thunk. Then, a warning siren. An indicator goes red. He tries to evade, the fragile plane creaking as he banks. Then, there's an explosion. Shrapnel
Come
rattles.
on, man. That plane is a spy plane. It's a massive plane. They cannot maneuver like that. They cannot dodge a missile. So this was bound to happen.
Through the fuselage. Helmet glass shatters, and then depressurized silence. Debris falls on the green fields of Cuba. And now, it is a shooting war. This episode was brought to
They did what? They shoot down our plane, sir. It's on. And JFK like, fuck. Man, that situation was ridiculous, man. Seriously. All the pressure, all the, the fear of war. Nuclear bombs could be dropping anytime. Today we think of like, oh, war, come on. Any kind of situation like this happening today. Like some countries come to almost conflict. We're like, oh, come on, they're going to back down. No way war would happen because it's been so long time. Major conflicts been 80 years since World War II. Right? Alright, what was I saying before call interrupted me? Yeah, so in today basically, it's been 80 years since World War II. So, any kind of conflict like this comes almost conflict. We're like, come on, they're gonna back down. But around this time, it wasn't that long before World War II. I mean, if you see the time periods, it's just been enough time between, World War I to World War II and World War II to, this Cuban Missile Crisis. Maybe there's more decades, but, it's not that long time than today. That's what I'm saying. So the point is, around this time, people will be like, oh shit, now another war could start, and this time there are nukes involved. So the pressure was extremely high. Alright people, that was Cuban Missile Crisis by the channel Extra Credits. If you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the Rick Sunday, there's a link in the description. Check out the Cosmo playlist, check out the cards, and I'll see you next time.